failed engages, even in the games against us when I was playing against him. Like I noticed that he was whiffing a lot of plays that he would maybe normally hit or not, and it made him look really bad.
Yeah, because I think it's important to highlight that it actually made sense what Misfits tried to do, because they have been losing a bunch of games in a row.
They needed a change.
They needed to try something, and again, if that made them fix the problem, and it's not like Justice is a bad support by any means, they subbed in. If it actually fixed something, it will show in this game. Mikyx back in the bot lane, Rakan is banned against him, he doesn't get the point.
Yeah, if we tally up what happened so far with Rakan and Talia off the table, 2 very strong picks negated by Vitality. On the other side, no surprise there, the Trundle is out. Kikis won't be on that champion.
We had a brief argument before the game started, where I said, well, you should just ban the Trundle against Kikis, and we did not fully agree, but Misfits...
The other way of doing it is by banning the Trundle counter and taking it. You are blue side in this case, so you could take the Trundle and ban the Kindred, which is the other pick he's been looking pretty good on, so I feel like that would be okay. Then again, Akali is a champion, so I'm not surprised seeing that one being picked up.
Expecting it to go mid lane for Sencux, obviously would actually tell me that Misfits will try to rely a lot on him, because I feel like Akali is a champion where if she gets ahead, she looks really, really good, but from behind, she really, she's annoying because of her W, but she's not that scary to deal with if she doesn't actually do well. So I really want to see them put some emphasis on the early game and trying to get Sencux going.
We'll see, and with the Trundle off the table, which is usually what Kikis uses to do well in the early game, now it could be that he goes for Gragas. It still could go top lane also, but I do assume it might go into jungle, and then the Braum coming in for Jactroll.
So I actually like that they pick up the Akali with the 2 early game mid bans. So Ryze and Galio are usually pretty strong, and they accelerate the game with teleport. Like they like making TPing back, getting priority, and then just going to lane and killing them, right?
Yeah.
So I really like picking up the Akali Sejuani, which is something that will get online after 6 rather than before 6. So slowing down the mid lane matchup is pretty good.
Also, I think they get what I think many teams will consider one of the safest AD carry choices in Varus.
Yeah.
Because again, great laning phase, good ulti for setup, and multiple build paths depending on what you're playing against. So I really like that as well. And I also think just the fact that not only do you ban the TPs in Galio and Ryze, it's also been the best champions for Jiizuke.
That's a good point.
And he's been looking for more picks I feel like he could actually do well on. And this is a big one.
Right now it seems like he thinks he wants to go for the LeBlanc. We had seen it being successful just today as well in the hands of Caps. Now, what do you think they're looking at with the composition that they're building from Vitality? Are they looking to go more early game?
I think they're going to have a specific pick in Varus, because I know Attila plays, for example, the MF. I'm not sure how the matchup goes myself, but most teams will immediately pick up the Ashe and just play the Ashe Braum into Varus Tahm Kench. Like this goes back and forth, or Ashe Tahm into Varus Braum to try and match the pressure, because Varus usually he gets locked in as the guy that has priority. So like he will be the bully in the lane, he will have control over the laning phase and be able to dictate the game from bot lane. So I'm pretty sure they have something specific in mind into the Varus, considering they didn't pick any counter.
I hope they pick something now.
It's also Vitality Classic to save AD carries for later.
They put a lot of priority on that Attila, they have done. Tahm Kench off the table, as well as Jhin from the side of Misfits.
So the LeBlanc pick, it's specifically, you asked, style before. Like whenever I see a LeBlanc, I always think like a bit of a pick comp, and I think you have a split pusher, but who can also actually play well in teamfights if you're really good at playing the champion.
It is quite interesting to me, because Jiizuke is someone that we've been looking at as he hasn't had as an overwhelming split as his debut split. It's been a lot about other players, but this could be a good one to send the signal before playoffs.
He's laughing. Attila's like, yeah.
Attila is? So they have something prepared. We'll see if it comes out right now.
I think Swain is actually still really good. He goes for the Draven.
Damn.
I'm not convinced personally. I actually think Varus used to be at least considered a counter to Draven, because it was really hard for him to play around Varus's range advantage and hail of arrows. And then if you try to play too aggressive, you're just going to get Chain of Corruption on your head, and you're really dead.
They have a lot of confidence in themselves, and that is something that I know from Attila. Against Hans Sama.
And they look at Thresh.
Making playmaking is back.
So he goes for the Thresh pick here. Also landed for Varus, which is quite nice. I feel like, I'm kind of surprised to see Draven. Like I said, I feel like it's a really risky pick, considering I don't think Draven will be able to do much against Akali Sejuani either later on. So I feel like he needs to really snowball the laning phase to do anything here. I guess it's Vitality fashion to pick 3 lanes that they need to snowball. I'm guessing Gragas will be going to the top lane and just taking a tank versus tank here against the Cho'Gath. And then they pick something really aggressive that can mess with the Sejuani in the early game down the bot side.
Kikis was known for in the past. Udyr, baby.
Udyr, I
Right
mean,
there. That's some early
Flash
aggression.
bear.
that's very spicy.
If he actually, like, if there's one player who could do it could be Kikis, but I'm obviously not
now that we've
expecting.
I goes for the Olaf.
Oh,
Yeah, okay.
right, Olaf.
Yeah,
There we
that's
go.
some early game pressure right there.
Basically,
works as well.
Udyr with a helmet on.
So, if we look at both compositions, what is Misfits looking to do?
I think they're trying to survive and slow down the game at level 6, and once they get their ultimates, I think it'll be really hard for Vitality's side to outplay them, I guess, because any CC coming out from Varus or Sejuani will just
I mean, that's
end up killing someone.
killing Cho'Gath and Sejuani, if you look at this, unless Draven
But
is
Vitality
Exactly.
is known to brawl, so are they just going to
Yeah,
go
listen.
all in with this comp?
This is Predator Olaf. We've already seen it back in the LCK. It is fantastic in the early game. You have the bot lane. You can try and play around and see if you can abuse a Thresh, who is very squishy in the early game, and
Right.
you can definitely kill him. Or around mid lane. LeBlanc chain should stay on the Akali, even if she tries to go into a W, and you can try and lock her down and place a little bit longer. And then maybe you can actually kill her. Like, I need Kikis to do what he's done before. Level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5.
Boom, boom.
Aggression.
Post-pick and ban prediction then, gents.
I think Misfits will take it because I think Kikis is going to have to live in Maxlore's jungle, and I feel like Olaf isn't a champion that does that, actually. I think he's a champion that likes to power farm and then start pressuring, and I feel like that's going to be too slow for the side of Vitality, considering they want to win the game before 6, and win it hard.
Boots into ganks. I think Misfits will take it, but I actually think this draft from Vitality plays into their strength, which is going to be the early game, and not playing like they did against Schalke for more late game.
Alrighty, well, this is our match of the week. Misfits versus Vitality. Very important in terms of the standings. Misfits can still get that first place, and both are vying for that bye. You want that top 2 spot, and you would also like to avoid Fnatic somewhere down the road before the finals, if you can. Very important one. The team's already on the rift. Let's leave it to our casters.
Thank you, Shocks. Me and Foxtrot are also joined by Andrew Vedius Day for our match of the week. We're going to jump straight on to the Summoner's Rift. And guys, I'm excited to be here with you. Such a monumental match in terms of standings. Okay, Foxtrot, I'm excited to be here with you. Andy is here as well.
Twice.
That's true. I'm still excited by it.
Well, it's going to be
enthralls me.
it's going to be a great game, boys. Both these teams fighting for that first place spot. Fnatic did get that win earlier, so it's always going to be an uphill battle, but securing your own wins will obviously be needed. So we already heard the analysts talking a lot about early game pressure. We can see Vitality already setting up in the river. 3 men strong, looking for an invasion. Look at that flank from the Gragas as well, coming in from behind Hansama.
It's cheeky. Might just work.
Yeah, Hansama's not in a good spot at all. There's the belly bop. Axe comes out as well from the Olaf. Attila on the chase. Concussive bows. The Lantern will get into safety. And that's why you bring Mickey back. These sort of plays that he can make for the team.
And immediately Maxlore going to the other side of the map to trades jungle camp. So Misfits responding in kind, but the fact that they get out of this situation is great for Misfits in the early game.
That was a very specific save that literally could not have happened if Mikyx had picked anything.
That's true.
That is actually ridiculous. And it reminds me actually of a level 1 that Misfits faced before. I think it was against Fnatic that time in the top lane when Alphari got caught out from like the lane bushes.
Yes.
It was like a very similar situation. So Misfits seem to be prey of very interesting level 1s.
Just a quick note, we are running a vote in Twitch chat for this game. Make sure you spam MSF win if you think Misfits are going to take the win, and VIT win if you think Vitality are going to win this game. We will check in with that as the game progresses. At the moment, oh, it's all Misfits all the time, lads.
Ooh. Looks like it's going back and forth. Ooh, this pause definitely going to swing the votes one way or the other. You can see Misfits taking the lead off the back of that pause. Suddenly Twitch chat feeling more confident.
As the game slows down, Misfits scaling up to that level 6 during the pause. But guys, I do want to talk a little bit more about this draft, because there were a few surprising picks. Firstly, the Akali, first locked for Sencux. Now, he's always been seen as sort of this utility mage player, you know, Orianna, Aurelion Sol, Ryze, that's the sort of thing we saw him on. But this split, he seemed to be better on these more damage-heavy mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the early part of the split, Yasuo, Irelia, Swain, these champions that kind of got in your face, had a lot of outplay potential, were actually where Sencux found a lot of success. And while last week, Foxtrot, we were talking earlier about he kind of put early priority on the Yasuo and then he got shut down as a result. This time on the Akali, there is a risk once again of it happening against the LeBlanc, but it does feel like that it fits within his wheelhouse of where the team has found success in the past.
I think it absolutely suits his style, and when you compare it, when you mix it up with a Sejuani jungle as well, I think both these champions are kind of chill out, get 6, and then do stuff after the.
Oh, I agree. I think the mid lane matchup can be rather challenging, but once you get that 6 mark, as you said, there's a lot of potential there.
Definitely a lot of potential. Just a quick note for everyone, there is a peripheral issue with Hansama. Our league officials are investigating it. If there is an issue, we can just replace the peripheral that is causing the problem. So shouldn't be too long before we're able to get things sorted out.
Step 1, check if it's plugged in.
Yep.
It is not working. Step 2, replace
Unplug it. Plug it back
Plug
in
it back
again.
in. All right, that's
you
step
almost
2.
missed a step there.
They should turn off the mouse and then turn it back on.
Ooh, can you do that?
How can you? Do you have a switch on your mouse?
Don't you?
I don't have an on and off switch on my mouse.
So when you load up your mouse, then you have to go in the BIOS first.
Whoa, what's a BIOS?
Yeah, okay, I don't know. I know biology.
Biology?
Talk about biology?
Well, I could, in the same way that I talk about League of Legends, and make most of it up.
Yeah, I've watched your YouTube channel. That's about right. Let's talk about the other key pick that we have seen in this game, though. It's Draven, but it's not on the side of Misfits.
No.
Attila is the one who's locked in Draven.
Yeah, and they kind of did it because they consider it to be a strong 2 versus 2 matchup. Paired up with the Braum. Always, the thing about Draven in lane, very, very scary, naturally. You pair it up with a Braum, and also equally as scary because you have a lot of CC stacking and you also have a lot of damage. However, we heard from Whipper on the analyst desk that in terms of this matchup, it's actually not too bad for the Varus. He has decent range, he does have good wave clear, strong poke, and he can farm from a distance. And like, Medic, you are the resident support expert here. High Diamond, in fact, in that position.
I was for a while.
High Diamond, that's fine. We'll sit there. You know, when you think about Braum versus Thresh, I kind of think of it as somewhat of a skill matchup, slightly favored in Braum, but I definitely think there's a lot of room for outplay on the side of the Thresh.
There definitely is. I think the big thing that you have to remember in this matchup is that Mikyx had to scale W at level 1. So it's going to be level 3 before he has any pressure in the lane, because you really want your Flay and your Death Sentence, and it makes a much easier matchup for the Draven and the Braum to play through. With the Unbreakable, with the ability to actually put some pressure down with the concussive blows early on, I expect Attila and Jactroll to win this lane out on the early game.
I think as well what's interesting about this specific game, which is maybe something we haven't really given enough credit to, both these teams arguably have the 2 best bot laners in the LCS.
Ooh, bold claim. Reckless is back, you know.
Reckless is back.
I mean, Bwippo's there.
Bwippo's
upset.
there, upset.
I personally think Hansama and Mikyx, at least early Hansama and Mikyx, were the best bot in the league.
Okay.
And I think Attila and Jactroll honestly can definitely throw their hat in the ring in that discussion.
Oof, wow, we'll get to find out as we are jumping back into game, gents. It'll be an exciting one for sure. If we look back down towards the bot lane, as you were talking about, Medic, we can already see that pressure coming in. They're going to hit that level 2 first, which means the Misfits will automatically be forced to play even more defensively than they already are. But as a couple levels come under their belt, we expect that to kind of balance out and things should get a little bit easier.
Definitely should. Maxlore did get away that red buff. Of course, both junglers starting on the opposite junglers red. Sencux in the mid lane on this Akali, trading with Jiizuke, but Jiizuke is doing a pretty good job of getting damage back onto the Akali. And once again, we have a pause coming out from Misfits. So I'm sure we'll sort out exactly what is going on there. Hansama is fervently clicking his mouse. It's in the air. So I'm wondering if he knows he has to put it on the mouse.
Oh, he's got to check. It's a skill that takes time to develop. I'm sure that we'll figure out the issue as it comes through, but that is quickly being resolved. And this just gives us more of an opportunity to talk about the mid lane matchup.
Oh, it
gents.
does. It does, Vedius.
I love talking about mid lane.
Do you like
boys.
mid lane matchups?
I love mid lane
Do you
matchups.
like just random picks in mid lane?
So I've actually been playing a lot of Akali recently.
Badly, yeah. I played with you.
But she's a lot of fun. And the easiest way to describe her is 1 to 5, really bad.
Yeah.
She has a really short range, very easy to punish her. She does have spammable Q, which can do a decent amount of damage. But one of the big issues with it is that it's pretty low in damage at the very early levels until you actually get a couple points into it and have a few items as well. And that's why I kind of consider LeBlanc to be one of the best picks into her, because every time she tries to approach the wave to farm, she instantly gets punished. And it's because of all of her mobility, it can be often difficult to deal with.
And what's cool as well with LeBlanc into Akali is that she doesn't really need to target Akali much outside of that Q. And so when Akali is dipping in and out of her Shroud on her W, and she's untargetable and a real nuisance to deal with, it doesn't really matter too much. We saw one of the trades going through already where Jiizuke hits that 1 Q while Akali comes out of the stealth, and then bam, you just jump on her. You get, after level 6, if you get that chain down on her as well, you can get off a lot of your burst without even having to see the Akali, and I think that will really work in LeBlanc's favor. Not to mention that, like you say, the 1 to 5 for Akali is pretty bad.
Yes.
A super quick update for everyone at home. There were a few settings to do with the mouse that we needed to finalize, finally sort out. So Hansama's just doing that at the moment. You can see our technical experts are on stage with him as well, being like,
That's what you go into the BIOS for.
get your, oh, is that a BIOS? I just assumed that was like a program. You just go in and set your
when
DPI.
you boot up your mouse in safe mode.
I've never booted up my mouse in safe mode ever in my life. I feel like I'm being trolled. Did you get that sensation?
I don't know, man. I don't know computers. I just play video games.
That's true. That's true. Very important match for these two teams, of course. Is prudent for us to note that Vitality can no longer actually get first because of the head-to-head between Fnatic and some of the other teams and between Vitality and some of the other teams. So at best, they could get second place. Schalke can no longer get first as well because they're 0-2 in their head-to-head against Fnatic. But Misfits could still steal that first.
So the fight for first right now is between G2
Misfits and
Fnatic. Okay, all right.
But it's very much reliant on Fnatic not winning tomorrow, as far
see.
as I understand.
Yeah, so interesting fight for first. We'll see how things progress, especially after
But what
today's
about
matchup.
the battle for the bye?
Yeah, will definitely be an exciting one. Many teams are trying to fight for that second spot. But yeah, so far in this game, very little has happened. We're only 2.5 minutes in. Very few items have been built. But because we've been in a pause for so long, just want to quickly remind people of like the goals of both teams' compositions. Because of Vitality, they drafted very early game focus. They're about trying to find those early leads, largely through the jungle, and the pressure that they generate through the mid lane and the bot lane. Because we already talked about it in the early stages of the game, the Draven and Braum will generate a lot of pressure in that 2 versus 2. And LeBlanc against Akali, the 1-for-5 Akali, very weak, which means that LeBlanc does have pressure, which means that Kikis can invade towards the bot side as much as he wants. He has as much control, he can steal away a lot of camps, he can be a nuisance, as we already saw from the level 1.
Yeah, and Kikis is that type of player. His counter jungle percentage, I think is what the stat is called, is really high for junglers. He loves invading. Massive success we saw against Fnatic, the best team in the league, when he really just made Broxah look silly, honestly, by invading constantly. And Olaf, Bwipo said he wasn't really thinking Olaf is much of an invade champion, but I think that Kikis can absolutely do that, and it's one of Olaf's strengths.
One of the things I'll be keeping my eye on is the amount of mana that he expends, but right now he has his eyes set on the bot lane.
Yeah, already pushed up here by Jactroll and Attila. Level 2 hit for Hansama and Mikyx, though, so they can try and turn this one around already. Winter's Bite, Jactroll tanking up the tower. That was not the best dive I've ever seen.
No, that was not a clean dive at all. Braum very nearly losing his life there. Hansama, if he just aimed slightly to the left, factored in that wind speed, maybe he would have been able to secure the kill, but it ends up just being a defensive bot lane for now.
Ooh, very close in the vote as well. I thought after we saw Jactroll almost dive underneath the tower and sacrifice himself, it would have gone further towards Misfits, but maybe people still wondering about Hansama's mouse. Yeah. Maybe his DPI is off ever so slightly.
I think it's a bit surprising that Vitality sort of threw away their bot pressure with trying to go for a dive like that. When you already have the flash down from Hansama, you force Mikyx into skilling his W at level 1, you have that advantage, which is so crucial in a Draven lane. Yeah. You want to be able to bleed that lane, you want to be able to be a step ahead of the opponents, and it forces Jactroll to reset.
And I think that it's going to be pretty important as well for Misfits when you think about how they've won a lot of their games throughout the split, because often it was by playing through the bot side of the map. And when they have Varus Thresh, you have a strong capability of doing it, and we also have Alphari on a tank. And over the last few weeks, if you guys have been following Misfits, they've been playing a lot of carries. Things haven't been going well. I wouldn't really put that down to Alphari, because when you look at his tank performances, he is 5-1, specifically on champions like Mundo. His KDA is very impressive, his damage percentage for tanks is extremely high as well, and overall he's just very solid, very consistent, very reliable, but he's not the guy that Misfits have often carried through in the early game.
And this is the big thing for Misfits. In the first half of the split, it was very much about putting Alphari on a tank and playing through the bottom side. And you can see at 15 minutes, they were almost 4,000 gold ahead. They got most of the first bloods in the games, and they had 2 towers at 15 minutes per game. In the second half of the split, they've been putting Alphari on carries, trying to get him ahead a little bit more, and it just hasn't been working for them.
No, it has. And it's just because they've been trying too hard over the last few weeks to play through top lane, and it's just not the way in which they win games. When they get to even or slightly behind in the mid, their bot lane hasn't been able to have the same kind of performances. So we want to see Misfits play through bot. And I think that once they hit that level 6 mark, especially with an Akali and a Sejuani, you can do it. So that'll be my eyes. That'll be what I'm looking for Misfits. Level 6 bot lane.
Here we go. Kikis has been waiting in this bush for a while. Mickey the one to be caught out. Flash away. The chase from Kikis. That's one. First blood. Attila flashes away as well. Kikis gonna get chased down by Hansama and Maxlore. He's not going to escape. 1 for 1 in the bottom lane.
That is a kill over to Draven compared to a kill on Sejuani. So even though it's a 1v1, which would imply it was equal, you get to cash in a little bit on that bounty, or your self-bounty.
Yeah, the adoration stacks.
The adoration stacks, that's what it was.
Praise
Thank you very much. But this is just so aggressive. Like, I can't believe at level 4, Vitality are looking to dive essentially full health teammate.
Well, I think one of the big things is we know that Misfits gain a lot of their leads through the bot lane, and Vitality is just trying to shut that down. They drafted the Draven, they drafted a snowball lane, and they said, we want to find kills and early leads. And with the pressure that you have from a LeBlanc in mid, it makes it hard for Akali to be able to roam down, and it also gives Kikis that much control over the bot side jungle, enabling to just sit around and wait for that opportunity to dive. Vitality pull it off, not quite as cleanly as they want, but you talked about those adoration stacks. Just have a look at those items, Draven.
Yeah, already got the BF sword for himself, and it all comes off the back of Kikis making those early aggressive plays. Last week, he had a couple of games, one on a Gragas, one on a Attila. His Gragas game, he was not aggressive in the early game. He was much more about scaling up to level 6. The Attila game, he was counter-jungling, he was pushing in, got 7 kills plus assists at 15 minutes, and you can see when he plays around his team, when he pushes into the enemy jungle, he is the catalyst for Vitality.
Yeah. And then on the Olaf pick, he can do that. And when I was casting Kikis at the EU Masters, which was a little while back, he was playing for a Polish squad.
Illumina.
Yes, and they made a kind of a surprising run, honestly, all the way to the finals, if I'm not mistaken. And Kikis was a big reason why, and he was basically an Olaf one-trick at that point. And one of the reasons why Illumina had so much success was because the way that Kikis was playing Olaf was so in your face. It was so hard to deal with him, and whenever you play like that, whew, there's a nice flash escape there from Jiizuke. And whenever you play like that, you force the enemy team to be reactive to you. Keep them on their toes, and oftentimes those situations will work in your favor.
Yeah, so we'll see if Kikis can keep this pressure up. We heard from Whippo on the desk that Vitality want to be winning this game pre-6. So far, they do have an early game gold lead. It has come off the back of the jungler, and they need to keep this pressure up as Kikis now looking for another invade. Well, unfortunately, not be able to pull anything off. Another fight in the bot lane, though. Hansama
still has flash, has the chain of corruption as well. Chain into the hook, pulling Jactroll underneath the tower. Chain of corruption only lands onto the Draven. So close to catching Jactroll, but he was able to flash away in time.
Surprised Hansama held his ulti for so long because Jactroll was underneath the turret, but he instead chose to delay it a little bit. Then Jactroll flashed out of the way and it actually landed onto Attila. So they don't get any kills, but they will burn the flash from Jactroll. And those level 6 marks are being hit. Misfits, they could look for an opportunity bot. I want to see them getting Hansama ahead. Because Foxdrop, you talked about how this duo bot for Misfits has the potential to be the best in Europe, but we have not seen it over the last 3 to 4 weeks because they have not been set up to be those big carries.
Early Misfits, that was definitely how they won their games. And like I mentioned before, they've been playing much more towards the top side with Alphari on those carries. But Alphari is not playing a carry this game. Oh. At least not until he presses R on someone and does as much damage as a carry. But right now, Misfits can afford to put their resources into the bot lane. And Varus, one of these more hyper-scaling champions, hyper-carry champions, if you protect him, he will definitely pump out that deep, so they have a good team to do that. It's just up to Maxlore to enable that.
Problem is for Hansama, he's about 20 CS down in this bottom lane at the moment. A CS lead as well for Jiizuke in the mid, CS lead for Cabochard in the top, and that's what's leading to this 700 to 1,000 gold lead for Vitality in the early game.
I mean, that whole gold lead is currently sitting on top of Attila. There is a slight gold discrepancy in the mid as well going in favor of Jiizuke, but Maxlore doing a good job of closing that gap in the jungle, but I think we have to keep our eyes on the bot lane once again, gents.
Not only Kikis who can roam and make the ganks, Glacial Fisher use, Mickey pops down the threshold, but that's not going to be enough. He's the first to fall. They're going for the full dive. Attila gets one, chases in, concussive blows. Doesn't want to go any further. Had the whirling death, but they realized that Sencux and Maxlore could come down and join the fight.
Oh, and this is the power of Akali. The power of LeBlanc. The amount of pressure that she generates in mid against an Akali means that she can often be the first one to move around the map. I'm surprised that she wasn't spotted because they did have a control ward in the river, but it ends up being another kill going in favor of the Draven. 2-0-0 now. BF sword completed. Attila being a big early contributor to Vitality's early lead.
And Foxdrop, before this game started, as we got into picks and bans, as we got into the game, you were saying you thought these were the best 2 bot laners in Europe. Hansama and Mikyx, Attila and Jactroll, and it seems like Attila and Jactroll are just winning at the moment.
And this is the thing, is Attila and Jactroll are so good in the 2v2 specifically that it sets up for the rest of the team to be able to go for these plays. Both when Kikis came down earlier and when Jiizuke comes down this time, look at the position of Misfits and where they are. They're always just a step behind, not in that position where they can really fight back in these scenarios, and it makes them quite vulnerable, especially with this Thresh pick, who is a champion that's good at saving others, but not so good at protecting himself.
I am surprised, though, that Misfits didn't call that. I mistakenly said that Misfits had a pink ward, control ward rather, in the river. That got placed down afterwards, but they visibly saw Jiizuke walking towards the bot lane, and the bot lane of Misfits were not able to respond. Now Vitality looking for another gank in the bot side of the map.
Down here once again. We said we wanted to see Misfits play around that bottom lane. It's been all Vitality. Bloodthirster completed on Attila. We're only 11 minutes into this game, and already Vitality have a monumental lead down towards this bottom side, and how much this game matters for them as well. If they lose here, they are guaranteed only 5th spot. They can't get better than that, but they're trying to set their sights just a little bit higher as they set their sights on Mikyx. Hansama, the next target. The jump away, the stopwatch. Hansama, you're not going to survive for long! A double kill. Jiizuke caught out in the river here as well, as Maxlore and Sencux try and find some semblance of hope for Misfits, but they cannot catch the great LeBlanc.
The bot lane of Misfits is getting crushed right now. The return of Mikyx was supposed to be about Misfits 2v2 finding success, but it is all about Attila and Jactroll. Kikis is sending these ganks down. Attila 4-0-0 right now, and Vitality are securing their first turret of the game.
And how devastating it must be to be beaten by your signature hero in the lane. Draven is Hansama's champion, and he is being schooled by Attila.
Not just his signature champion, but that's the skin that Hansama uses as well, adding insult to injury there. To get to see this play again. Ironically, this is the Kikis gank that starts it, but he doesn't even get an assist on that Thresh kill. That's just how far ahead Vitality's bot lane is right now. And even though Jactroll does fall down, getting 2 kills onto Attila, onto the Draven, who was already ridiculously far ahead. Draven is one of the hardest snowballing champions in the entire game, and he is absolutely set up to do even more of that in this game right now.
And we were looking forward to seeing Misfits look to play through their bot lane, the level 6 mark for mid and jungle, but they didn't find those successful ganks, but they didn't even try to make bot ganks happen, and it was all about Vitality finding those opportunities. Attila and Jactroll, with the help of Kikis and Jiizuke, setting up multiple dives, have gained a huge advantage in the bottom side of the map. They now sit on a 2,500 gold lead. They're looking to take the Rift Herald as well, and they can just keep up this early game pressure that they've been able to build for themselves.
A question I have about the future of this game is Sencux and his Akali pick. Because I want to see whether or not he can actually shut down the Attila on the Draven.
I have a question about Cabochard being in this position right now, because Maxlore is there as well. Alphari teleports in.
So why is this happening now? This was the kind of play I wanted to see like 5 minutes ago from Misfits. I mean, it's great that they find a kill and a tower.
But at what cost as well?
Yeah, right? They end up losing the top tower as well. They still keep pressure on. The Rift Herald now spawning in mid. Vitality, after losing their top laner, are getting so much in return.
They're going to be able to get that top tower looking for mid as well with this Rift Herald. Should do quite a chunk of damage. Attila going for the top lanes here too as well. Mid's going to fall. And Vitality might get 3 towers out of that one play down towards the bottom side. A 2-tower trade. I think Attila will probably back away before he gets this, but you never know. Might stay, might be a little bit greedy. No, sees Mikyx and says, no, I don't want any part of that for the moment.
It was just an interesting priority of events there for Misfits. Like you say, it was a bit late to make a play like that, but also just why? Why are you making a play in that position when you know that your top lane is in a ripe position to get taken down? You know the enemy team has the Rift Herald as well, which makes countering these aggressive plays really easy. I mean, that was suboptimal, I would call.
I mean, it ties in with what Misfits were talking about over the last few weeks, which is that their issues were when they fall behind, they don't know what to do. they do seem a little bit lost, and you've also got to give credit to Vitality just making a lot of the right moves. The moment they saw 4 members of bot from the side of Misfits, immediately they pushed both top and mid, secure 2 towers, get themselves a Rift Herald. They were smart to pick themselves a winning bot lane and then play through it, and then just playing towards their win conditions very cleanly right now. Yes, they will probably lose a couple of objectives here and there, but so far, Vitality having a very clean early game.
And what's cool about a Draven pick as well is you can actually sit him in a side lane and act as a split pusher. I know that might sound a bit strange, but when he's this far ahead, he can 1v1 anyone.
Maxlore not in the best of spots, pops the Glacial Prison, popped back with the explosive cast. Sencux on the flank. We're looking at that Akali. Can he catch out Attila? The flash away. Great stuff from Attila to keep himself safe. Mikyx flashes onto the backline. The play, Chain of Corruption's going to land as well. Attila trying to cleanse his way out of it, but that is a very dead Draven, and Misfits have somehow found a fight that keeps themselves alive in this game.
But look at the bot lane. This is the thing is, yes, Jiizuke is pushing, that's great. But why are Vitality pushing in a situation, putting themselves in a situation where they can fight a 4v5? I feel like they should have been way more passive in that scenario. You know Jiizuke is split pushing bot. He does not have TP. You do not want to take that fight. This is a team comp from Vitality, and the Draven specifically being your fed teammate, you want to protect him. You need to protect him, and it's hard to do that in a 4v5.
So let's have a look at the setup here. It looks like they have 4 versus 3, and they believe that with 2 members mid, they have the numbers advantage, and they can stop Maxlore's back. He has no flash available. They hard commit to this, but now you can see Thresh roaming up through the jungle very quickly, and he can bring Hansama in thanks to the Lantern. Over the wall, a great ultimate. And the problem for Vitality is they can't kill anyone quickly enough. They think that when they have a 4-0 Draven, this is a very easy way for them to just shred through a kind of squishy Maxlore, but fun fact, he's not that squishy. He's not that easy to kill. He is still Sejuani, and that means that there's enough time for Misfits to regroup, reposition, and find themselves some good kills. But again, Vitality answer. Jiizuke secures tier 2 tower in the bot lane, and they are not giving up, even though Misfits are finding fights elsewhere.
I think the big thing for Misfits is how important a win in this game is for them. You're still challenging for that second spot, you're still challenging for the bye, you're still even challenging for first if you win this game, but if you lose this, you are not in a good spot at all when you look at your track record. Mikyx caught out a little bit, the concussive blows comes out as well. He's down, Vitality find another pick, and now Vitality can continue to push for this mid lane tower.
And that Thresh pick, good at saving other people, not so good at saving himself. We see it right there. And Vitality, as a grouped up unit here, do have threat on a tower. Attila just being a disrespectful Draven player. He's never seen that one before. But what is important right now, Vitality is already overextended once in that top lane. They don't want to do it right here because they've set up for this 1-3-1. You saw Jiizuke run bot side. Oh, God.
Prison only lands onto Jactroll. You can't follow up from that. They were looking for the Glacial Prison into Chain of Corruption combo, but they couldn't connect onto Attila.
Now Vitality pressuring all 3 lanes very effectively, and look at how they're constantly moving through the jungle trying to find more picks. This is a team that throughout the regular season is very good at finding those small opportunities, and this might be another pick.
Glacial Fissure hits to the hook, hits onto the backline though, and that is a dead Draven, and now Misfits can look to turn this one around. Sencux coming in from the side, 2 kills to Jiizuke, but here comes the Akali, the first pick, the first lock for Misfits, and he's got to do something big to keep his team alive in this game.
He runs in, runs out.
That was not a big thing.
Can't quite close the gap.
But they did kill the Draven. It doesn't lead to anything else, but Draven is dead. I think maybe that is the prime target for Misfits has to be the Draven, but at some point as well, this guy is so fed, but you just can't forget about Jiizuke either. He's definitely not weak in this situation, and for me, I don't feel like Misfits really have enough right now to deal with both of these threats.
I'm surprised that Misfits try so hard to defend. They are at a numbers disadvantage. Akali isn't anywhere near the lane to be able to respond. Alphari does a good job of getting onto the backline, but Jiizuke does an even better one. Finding 2 quick kills onto both the jungler and AD carry means that Vitality are just constantly coming out ahead in these fights. And, you know, you talked about the double carry threat. Yeah, it's all well and good killing Attila, but you still have Jiizuke to respect it. We're only 19 minutes into the game. This guy has a completed Luden's Echo, and he's sitting on a needlessly large rod as well. This guy throws out a huge amount of damage, and at this point in the game is a terror.
Question is, can he get through that tanky front line of Alphari and Maxlore, or does he just need to
ignores
die?
it.
And Sencux just ignores your front line as well and jumps on the back line. It's going to be the battle of the assassin mid laners.
But right now, Sencux has literally been invisible while
Obscure, I believe is the technical term.
No, I mean, yeah, he's obscure, but he's then just staying in there and not doing anything. He's so far 0-0-3. We haven't seen him form any roams. We've seen him obviously generate no pressure in the mid lane because it is LeBlanc. But at the same time, you look at the team fight contribution, and Jiizuke has had a much larger impact.
And I think as well, this pick is it's so Jiizuke, and I don't mean
Cabo.
to say that in a weird way.
Lands the chains onto Mikyx. He's going to root him in place, and Mikyx is not in a good spot at all. But Attila gets his next kill, and they actually look like they're going to turn towards the Baron here. Vitality do have the option of just forcing a play.
I think it'll be a bit too early to try and go for this one, but what they can
Not for
do-
Vitality, mate.
Well, okay, not for Vitality, that's fair. They definitely fancy going for stuff, but I think what they should do at this point in the game is to maybe even threaten a Baron, even if they don't actually decide to go for it, because they could, in theory, do it. Draven just has ridiculous, consistent damage.
Yep.
That Misfits at least has to respect the fact that Vitality might go for a cheeky play like that. So if you deny the vision around the Baron area and you can force Misfits to face check into you, that can be the next step for winning this game.
Yeah. And remember, guys, you can spam in chat Vitality or Misfits to show your support for who you think to win. I feel like it's going to be a little obscure towards, oh, look, Vitality.
Yeah.
The gold lead is pretty heavily in their favor.
It's about 5,000 at the moment.
Yeah, but to go back on your point, Foxdrop, like Baron is one option, but I feel like they could just go for 1-3-1.
Yeah.
They don't need to like force any big objectives. They're so strong on their side lanes right now that they just need to regain control of those sides. And once they're able to do that, they can get that deep vision. They can keep finding picks like they have been doing. And I think that once they find a pick, it's very easy for them to snowball that into another objective.
And what's also really difficult for Misfits is to break that 1-3-1. You have to hard engage onto the 3 in the mid lane. But how are you going to do that when Draven has cleanse, Braum has cleanse, and Olaf is Olaf?
Yes.
It's very difficult to actually break that composition from Vitality.
Third dragon of the game for Vitality as well. 2 Clouds and a Infernal for them. Vitality are just going to clear out this mid lane. Did set up a little bit of a 1-3-1, but not going to fully execute it yet. A fight looking like it could erupt. Misfits are the ones that have gained control of the Baron. Vision. Hook only lands onto Cabochard. Don't really want to pull the Gragas into the midst of your team. Jiizuke jumps onto the backline. Hansama is his target, and Hansama knockback still alive away from the whirling death. Jiizuke gonna die to that ignite. Sencux shut down, jumps across towards the back of this fight as well. The Olaf on the chase misses the first axe. Can he land the second? Sencux dodging, weaving, diving across to the side. He's done, and Vitality get a 1-for-1. Mikyx has to flash the wall to get himself to safety. Cabochard still on the chase here, but Vitality aren't going to get much more.
But we've also got to recognize that Vitality, who have a 5,000 gold lead, just ended up in a 1-for-1 against Misfits, and that was because they chose to group and then face check. They were worried that Misfits might have been starting the Baron, and they weren't taking control of their side lanes. And this is something that we've seen from Vitality a few times. The need to just group and fight when they have so much stronger 1v1, 2v2s that they can use to play on the sides. Instead, they choose to group. Instead, they choose to fight. And that is an avenue that Misfits can use to get back into the game.
And I think one of the underrated elements of this Akali pick is what you're seeing right now. She goes into her Shroud, and she draws basically the full attention of the whole Vitality lineup outside of Jiizuke. Almost picking up Hansama on the backside there, but either way, yes, Vitality should not have face checked. They're way far ahead in this game to just go 1-for-1 in a team fight, and close 1-for-1 at that. But Akali just draws so much to her because you don't know where she is and you have to protect the Draven. And I think because of that, Vitality weren't really optimizing their team fight, and Misfits are able to punish.
While this game has slowed down and both the teams have just reset, I want to take a little bit of a bigger picture look as the Glacial Prison does come out. The knockback as well. They're just trying to get rid of the Braum. Sencux is getting on towards that backline. Teleport in from Alphari as well. The game's not slowing down yet. Both these teams want to fight. Jiizuke wants to jump forward. Kikis flash the wall. The hook. Mikyx not in the best of spots. Hansama's still alive. Explosive cast will not knock him back into the team. But now Maxlore and Alphari are not in the best of shapes at all. Vitality find 3 kills. They find exactly what they need, and they find the shutdowns onto Misfits.
And Misfits tried to force a fight in the mid lane onto Vitality, but they engaged onto Jactroll. Attila was in a perfect position, Jiizuke was in a perfect position. Kikis just hard committed onto zoning Sencux out of the fight, and they keep all 5 members alive while Misfits lose 4.
And that's the Baron for Vitality as well. And this is a huge snowball team comp that has the best snowball utility in the game, the Baron Nashor. And honestly, I'm getting kind of flashbacks a little bit here of Misfits draft when they first picked this Akali. I'll get more onto that a bit later because this is how it all starts out, like you mentioned, with an engage onto Jactroll. Not really the person you want to start a fight.
Yeah, he immediately gets the counter engage with the ulti. Look, Mikyx loses half his health at the start of the fight. Hansama's in a similar situation. Sencux can't stay in the fight because there's no one left to support him. And then they get funneled into this choke point that Attila flashes in for to try and help secure a couple of these final kills. Sencux does what he can at the back end of the fight, but it's too little too late. The tanks become the focus, and Vitality just rip through the Misfit squad.
And when Kikis chased him, Sencux had to buy his ultimate to escape, and his ultimate is a huge facilitator for the offensive tools in Akali's kit. So you blow that away from him in an escape, and it means he can't use it to engage. And oof, Misfits here. Uh-oh.
Maxlore not in the best of spots at all. You can see how far back in as well.
they did.
Sencux goes into the Twilight Shroud, trying to keep himself alive. Maxlore jumps away as well. They're not dead, Vedius. They're not dead at all.
They're not
They
dead.
managed to escape, as does Alphari at the back of the fight. But Misfits, definitely a death knell for them at the moment. 8,000 gold behind, 26 minutes in, and what a collapse this split has been for this team. Misfits, they went 10-0, and since then they have gone 1-5. They've only beaten Unicorns and H2K in the second half of the split, and Vitality are looking to keep it that way. They get the inhibitor in the bottom lane, Misfits falling to pieces, and Vitality are picking them up and pushing them into the dirt.
Vitality have looked so clean so far this game. They drafted the Draven in the bot lane. They picked Hansama's signature pick against him, and they played around it beautifully. 7-2-4 is the scoreline for the Vitality AD carry.
And I'm just a bit surprised the fashion in which they were able to get Draven and Attila ahead. Because they just really hard forced it. A lot of times they were diving Hansama and Mikyx from full health. Really well executed team comp here. They've got the bot inhibitor with that Baron, and they're looking for the same in the mid lane.
What can Misfits do to stop this onslaught from Vitality? Not much at the moment. Cabochard just belly bopping back. Explosive cast used as well. Maxlore can't even get to the lantern in time. Jiizuke jumps in. Mikyx still alive in the midst of this fight, but Vitality don't want to keep it that way for much longer. Second inhibitor falls. They might just look to push in with the minion wave here. They've got a cannon. It's all on Misfits to try and stop this, but the hook goes a mile wide, and Vitality get their Nexus tower down. They're looking for the second. They're looking to shut out Misfits from that top spot battle. Vitality are looking to close this one out, and they do not care if it's your signature pick. They give a double across towards Attila. Vitality ace Misfits, and they are going to take the win and shut Misfits out of first.
Beautiful game coming in from the side of Vitality. You can see the elation on their faces. 3-0 was the record for Misfits against Vitality throughout this year, and finally Vitality shut them down. They end that losing streak, and they find themselves a win.
What a win it was as well. One of the most dominant performances I have seen in a long time. It was Vitality's performance against Fnatic, actually just absolutely devastating across the board. Really felt like nothing Misfits could do. They just didn't seem to have a way to answer Vitality's bot lane focus.
I mean, it felt like that, again, we just didn't see much impact from Misfits in the early game. Like, yeah, okay, you can argue they had pretty good scaling. Like, Varus scales well, Akali scales well, Sejuani, Cho'Gath, both in a similar position, but they didn't do much to try and mitigate the really heavy snowball that Vitality have drafted around. And if you're ever gonna draft, if any team is gonna draft heavy snowball, it will be Vitality, because they know how to play it. This is a style that they found so much success with so far this split, and they were able to pull it off to a T. 19.9k damage on this Draven, flawless execution, and really good stuff from the Vitality squad.
Incredible stuff from them all round. Got to give credit to Jiizuke as well. He was getting onto the backline when he needed to. Jactroll, after that early misstep on the dive down towards bottom lane, he had a good performance as well. Just across the board, Vitality looked incredibly strong, and Misfits, they're licking their wounds coming into playoffs. It has not been a satisfactory second half of the split. 1-6 in their last 7 games. They have only beaten H2K, and they have not looked like they had an answer to the other top teams.
You know, they being 10-0 to then going 1-6 must be devastating for the Misfits squad. They have completely flipped the way in which they approach the game, and it used to be this duo of Mikyx and Handsama that were snowballing 2 versus 2, that were finding these 2 versus 2 kills, but now it is Vitality just shutting them down. Beautiful early game execution from Kikis and the bot lane duo. Great defensive setup from Jactroll to just deny a lot of the engages that Misfits tried to set up to allow Vitality to regroup and then force a lot of these fights once again.
And again, you look back at the draft, you say Sencux got this first pick, Akali. It really was invisible this game. I can't really remember more than one play where he had an impact on the game. Yes, his bot lane was behind. Yes, it felt like that just snowballed the game away from Misfits, but at some point you have to have an answer to that sort of thing. And when you first pick a pick like Akali, you expect that to be part of your strategy.
You know, I'm open to admitting maybe we're being too critical, right? Like maybe with the draft that they have, it's all about scaling, right? They've got to do something. But I feel like that when you do draft this much into scaling and you're like, okay, we're going to wait a little bit longer, we're going to play on the defensive, why are you then putting a Thresh in there? Why are you drafting a bot lane that at level 6 has loads of playmaking potential and then not trying to utilize it? Why are you not investing vision towards the bot side of the map in order to try and keep your duo alive? You know, it's just, I feel like Misfits had a couple of options. They didn't look to try and do anything with them, and while there were a couple of promising team fights that did happen later on into the game, they weren't able to execute largely just because of some fantastic Braum shields coming out from Jactroll. Maybe it's down to the draft, maybe it's down to the execution. I guess we'll find out more in PGL.
Yeah, we will, because Yamato Cannon is joining us for PGL, so he can talk through that draft and all of that stuff. For our match of the week, Attila, Kikis, and Jiizuke are looking to become your player of the game, so go on over to @LOLesports on Twitter and vote. And
good couple of options.
Yeah, there's a few. When a guy goes 4-0 on a signature champion against the guy that usually plays that champion, I think.
I mean, fair. You can definitely give him a lot of praise. Kikis is another big one.
I have to, because he's over there, he's looking at us.
I mean,
it's like, oh, give it to me. Yeah, with a very competitive top 6, we're gearing up for some explosive battles in Madrid on the 8th and 9th of September. Get your tickets for the EU LCS finals over at eu.lolesports.com/ that's that direction, Madrid. You can also catch all the action at one of our viewing parties. To learn more, visit www.leagueoflegendscinemas.com. That's all one word, League of Legends Cinemas. And for more on how those were not words, that's the word.
For more on how Vitality won that game, let's hear from the AD carry, Attila.
Thank you very much, guys, and thank you, Attila, for joining me on stage now. Really strong and decisive game here, and you picked Draven against Handsama. Strong statement here, so why did you go with this champ?
I mean, I always go with the champion that is the best for the team comp, and I always like to be on top Reddit, so I pick Misfortune, I pick Lux, and then now I pick Draven against Handsama. It's the typical Vitality picks, so I just pick whatever it's best for the comp, and this case was Draven. I don't really mind playing Draven against anyone, so.
So since you play pretty much every champ, why do you like Draven? What's strong about him right now?
I mean, it's really lane dominant. I really like lane dominant bully lanes. Riot decided that Caitlyn is not on the meta, so I'm really sad about it, but I've been picking MF, Draven, I've been picking other picks as well, pretty bullies, so this game, yeah, it fit pretty well.
Yeah, if you had to choose for one champ to be back in the meta, you mentioned Caitlyn, but for some other AD carry, who would that be?
I mean, besides Caitlyn, probably Vayne. I enjoyed playing it a lot, and I like to do the flashy plays, not be always on the backline, just right-clicking like a boring AD. So.
Nice one. And now a bit more about your games recently. You seemed really more decisive than last week, especially after the loss against Schalke. So what did you guys work on this win to perform better today?
I'd say that the Akalis from the last week got us from surprise, because it was recently after she got rework and we're not really expecting them to pick it. And this week we just didn't care that much about the Akali, and we knew it was a possibility and we had like a plan. If they do it, if they don't, we had it in mind instead of not having it in mind at all. And then after, we also just played way cleaner the early game than we did against Schalke. That's the main difference.
Yeah, I mostly talk to mid laners about Akali, but never to an AD carry. So how is it to play with this versus this new champ? Because I know assassins can be a bit annoying when you play AD carry.
I mean, against Schalke, it was pretty painful. They had like Akali Nocturne. I was getting one shot every single fight, but against Misfits, we had it way more controlled and it was way easier. Like, if you're an assassin and you're not really ahead, it doesn't really matter if you're an assassin or not. So it's okay. It's a snowball champion. If he doesn't get ahead, it's fine.
Yeah, and you recovered good from here today. Tomorrow you will be facing G2. I talked to Jenkos earlier about it, but what are your strengths coming into this matchup, and how confident are you about facing G2?
I think we're just better laners as well, and we're probably the best team in early game, because it's been like that in the spring split, and I think this split is still the same. Like, everyone fears us early game for a reason. We are really creative and we like to punish early mistakes, so I think that's the main reason why we have an upper hand over them. If they can actually control it, then maybe they can win, but I think we're coming strong.
Well, confidence, as always. Thank you for joining me, and congrats. And again, good luck for the game tomorrow. Now, to end this day, we're going to send it over to Shox for the LCS post-game lobby. Take it away.